Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
Welcome.
Happy
Happy 4th
4th
of
of
July.
July.
I'm Reverend Divine. This is Reverend Liz, and we are co-ministers here at Unity of Fort Collins. We are so glad that you are tapping in and tuning in with us on this sacred holiday weekend or whenever you choose to do that. Just want to say in welcoming you that Unity is based on all teachings and all philosophies that have you connected to spirit, God, source energy. So, wherever you are on your journey, whether you've just started or whether you have been on the path for a long, long time, you are welcome here to bring your gifts, your talents, your wisdom, who you are helps to form our community and make it richer all the more for being with us. So I want to thank you for being here. And I would like to also take a moment to read out loud our vision and mission statement so you know what you're a part of. Our vision statement: we are centered in love, inspired by spirit. We awaken, connect, and thrive. And our mission statement: at Unity of Fort Collins, we are creating a loving, community by holding a safe and sacred space where all are supported to learn, grow, and participate in an awakening world. So now you know what you're a part of. And I'll now pass the baton to Reverend Liz for announcements.
Thank you, Reverend Divine. So we have a special part of our day, and that is that we have our second music leader candidate, Bonny Shuman, whom I will tell you more about in a little bit. And also you'll be able to hear from her today. And we'll have some surveys available for those of you who are part of the community who want to share your feedback. Some things that are happening here at Unity Fort Collins, which you, of course, you can always find all the information on our website, Unity of Fort Collins, and you can check the news and events. And so please do to get all details for the things that I'm going to share. Beginning this Wednesday, July 7th, we are starting to have meditation in house at the church at 6 p.m. We will continue to live stream it via Facebook. So if you're a Facebook meditation or person, don't want to drive to the church, that's still going to be happening. It'll be on the first and third Wednesdays. So this month, it'll be July 7th and July 21st. Also, this coming Wednesday, we have another special event that is a return to movie night here at Unity of Fort Collins. So July 7th, this Wednesday at 7 p.m., July 7th at 7. Right after the meditation, you can watch an old classic movie from 1966, King of Hearts. Masks will be required for those that are not vaccinated and when you walk into the building. But if you're vaccinated, you can take that off. Please, no food, but you can bring a water bottle. And then we have something happening on the Wednesdays, the 2nd and 4th, that Reverend Divine will tell you about.
So I'm starting a grief support group, and that's going to be on the 2nd and 4th Wednesday in house at church at 6 o'clock. And if you're interested in something that's online, we can formulate that as a separate entity. And that way we can hold a container of safety and confidentiality. Uh, so if you are having things going on that a little additional support would be welcomed. Grief is not about death. Grief is about different forms of loss in our life. In this past year, year and a half, many of us have experienced extreme forms of loss of life as we've known it. So if this is something that will be of support to you, show up on Wednesday, 6 o'clock. That's on the 14th and the 28th of this month. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Reverend Divine. And last but not least, we do have a new class starting and it won't be on Zoom. Hooray! Although I had fun with the Zoom rooms and such. This class will be a 7-week class. It will begin on August. It'll be on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m., an hour and a half class, 6 to 7:30 p.m. And the class name, How to Pray Without Talking to God. This is by Reverend Linda Martella Whitsett. She's a Unity minister, and she breaks it down in a really wonderful way. Talks about the different types of prayer, the type of prayer that is called affirmative prayer that Unity engages in. And it's very easy to read. There's going to be exercises to do. We'll be doing this in person again at the church starting August 3rd for 7 weeks. All the details that you need are on the website. You can also find out by calling the church. And we do have some books available, so you can pick up your book. This is a required class that we will ask that you take prior to starting our prayer chaplain program. So to learn more about prayer, then you can be aware if you're being called to that prayer chaplain, where we can take the opportunity to serve others through that power of prayer and know how to go about it in a way that really shifts folks into a higher experience for themselves in all areas. So that's it for our delicious, nutritious announcements for today. And now we'll turn it over to Reverend Divine for our opening centering prayer.
Let us take a moment to go inward, to allow ourselves to be present to the presence, to open ourselves up to knowing that everything that is being shared at this time via the music from Bonnie, the message that Reverend Liz will be sharing, and if you're in-house, you have community connection, all of this, we hold a container of love and safety, permission for you to experience exactly what you want to be coming through. You might find that from the message, lots will be tapped in and tuned in for you. You might find that you're just holding space. Whatever that is for you, may it be a time of joy and blessings and gratitude. May we make ourselves safe through this 4th of July, being mindful of all that the 4th of July represents, and just knowing that the time we're coming together is blessed. So I just called this service good and very good. Thank you for sharing in it. And so it is. And now it's time for our unity blessing. The words will be on the screen. I'd like if you would read them out loud with me. It tends to give a lot more passion and energy when you say things out loud. Our unity centers us in light and peace, allowing us to recognize our God within and to radiate that love to the world.
It's now my extreme pleasure to introduce today's guest musician, who happens to also be our second music leader at Unity of Fort Collins leader candidate. We had Elizabeth last week, and we have Bonny Shuman, who is here with us today. Bonnie's bio, she says that she is thrilled to be back in Colorado after having spent 5 years in Ohio. Originally from Wyoming, she has been involved in church music since she was a child. Bonnie has played keyboards and directed praise teams and choirs for over 25 years. That's some time. She also founded and directed a children's performing group, which she led in numerous locations. In addition to her musical career, Bonnie has been a special educator for over 27 years. Bonnie has 2 daughters, one who lives in New York City and the other in Seattle. One of Bonnie's favorite activities is singing around the piano with her daughters. She also enjoys traveling, cooking, exploring the beautiful Colorado mountains, and watching the Colorado Rockies. So let's open our hearts to Bonny Shuman. Thank you, Bonnie.
Smiling from California to New York. footsteps to the sparkling sands of her diamond deserts. My heart around me, a voice was sounding. This land was made for you and me. Well, the sun came shining, and I was strolling, and the wheat fields waving, and the dust clouds rolling. A voice was chanting as a flag was lifting. This land was made for you and me. This land is your land. This land is my land. From California to the New York Island, from the redwood forests to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me.
Good morning. My name is Jenny. I'm a member of Unity of Fort Collins, and I would like to first wish everybody a happy and safe 4th of July and share the reading. And the reading is freedom. There are many ways to feel free. I may work hard to become financially free. I may plan trips so I can freely explore the world. I may commit to learning for intellectual freedom or exercise my body for greater freedom of movement. Even as I do my work in the world to know freedom, I remember that I am always free at level of spirit. No situation or circumstance has power over me. Every day and in every area of my life, I live from my divine nature, where I am wholly and completely free. Through my inner powers of understanding and faith, I recognize and embrace empowering beliefs. My spiritual gifts of strength and release keep me on course and help me free myself from habits that derail my spiritual growth. Through God within, I am grateful to be free.
Times are tough, the days are long. Fear is deep, but faith is strong.
I begin today with a short story. The 4th of July was coming up, and the nursery school teacher, Mrs. Whipple, thought that she'd like to take the time to tell the kids about the 4th of July and patriotism and freedom. So she said to her class, "We live in a great country. One of the major things we can be happy about is that in this country, we are all free." When she said this, one little boy named Johnny walked up to her from the back of the class. He put his hands on his hips and he declared loudly, "I'm not free. I'm for." Right? I love this. And you know what? Johnny was free and he was for. The thing about Johnny was that he was free to speak his truth without fear. Fear of being laughed at, fear of being wrong, fear of what anyone would think. He was completely and totally free. And he was for at the same time. Johnny was free to be himself. Question I have for all of us is, do we as adults experience that same level of freedom that little Johnny did? My guess is we do not. I know I don't. Now, there might be places where we can feel that we can express ourselves more freely than other places, right? But for the most part, there's a part of us that holds back. And I think we all have that tendency not to be quite as free. So before we look more deeply into today's topic of living a life of freedom, I'm going to give you the definition, since we're talking about freedom. The definition of freedom. Freedom is the power to act, speak, or think as one wants, without hindrance or restraint, without being controlled or limited. Definition 2, the condition of not being in prison or captivity, the condition of not being of being free of restraints. Now, freedom can actually only be known by knowing the context of its opposites, right? You can't know freedom unless you know that experience of what restraint, limitation, captivity, bondage, confinement, servitude, slavery. If you never had any of these, then freedom wouldn't be a thing. Isn't that interesting for those of you who know that phrase? So back to little Johnny, who's for and free at the same time. We all have, I think, within us a little 4-year-old, Johnny, Susie, Liz. My little 4-year-old just wants to play and do big people stuff. And not do big people stuff. I knew that was wrong. My little kid's going, no, we don't want to do big people stuff. Can you relate? My 4-year-old is actually the complete expression of the power or spiritual ability that we'll be studying for the next 3 weeks in July. The spiritual powers or abilities that were formulated by Charles Fillmore, the co-founder of Unity. And this month, want to know the power? The power is the power of zeal. That's the enthusiasm, that life expressing energy. And my 4-year-old is full of zeal. I don't know about you, but mine definitely is all about that. So what happens to that 4-year-old that's so full of freedom and energy and exuberance and zeal? Well, they experience life. We experience life. And as I spoke of last week, life is not necessarily a very fun place all the time, and it can be quite painful. The reason why we're not so free or zealous or exuberant is one word. It's an F word. That's right, fear. We're fearful that we might be made fun of, laughed at, told to settle down, told not to do that. You can't say that. There's a whole litany of things that keep us fearful. And so we learn to hold ourselves back, to hold that exuberance in. My mother and father, I think, told me, don't be so happy, or don't be so this, or don't laugh so much. And so I learned to shut it down in some ways. But here's the thing, we're not meant to live that way. We weren't born to live that way. And yet it seems that that's the way we often become because of life's experiences. I have a quote here from Ernest Holmes, who's the founder of the Science of Mind teachings. Ernest Holmes was a New Thought pioneer and mystic, very much like Charles Fillmore. In fact, they could have been brothers in their teachings. He speaks of freedom in the very first page of the Science of Mind text. Ernest writes, to suppose that the creative intelligence of the universe would create man in bondage and leave him bound would be to dishonor the creative power which we call God. The seed of freedom must be planted in the innermost being of man, but like the prodigal son, man must make the great discovery for himself or herself. He says, we see abundance in the universe. Why then is man weak and poor and afraid? He writes, the divine plan is one of freedom. Bondage is not God ordained. Freedom is the birthright of every individual. All instinctively feel this. The truth points to freedom under law. Thus, the inherent nature of man and women is forever seeking to express in terms of freedom. We do well to listen to this inner voice, for it tells us of a life wonderful in its scope, of a love beyond our fondest dreams, of a freedom which the soul craves. I think Ernest sums it up very well, that we are inherently meant to be free. Now, here's an unrelated, but it is a related question. Have you ever been to a circus? Raise your hand. Yeah, most of us, and probably more in their childhood, have been to circuses, and they often have the circus elephants there, yes? Yeah, we've all seen the circus elephants. Question I have for you is, how do they keep that magnificent animal from running away? Well, I'll tell you. I mean, it's this animal who has tremendous weight, but he's got this little chain around his ankle, and he's tied to a little post in the ground. Now, that elephant could easily rip that out of the ground. Yes, I believe so. Just could snap it, just like we could snap a toothpick. He could just break it. But he doesn't. The elephant doesn't break away and go for freedom. You want to know why that is? Well, it's because as a baby elephant, the trainer used the same methods. Baby elephant who weighs about 100 kilos gets a collar put around its ankle, a chain on it with a 3-foot iron stake that's put into the ground. And that little baby elephant walks around in circles and tries to get away, and yet the chain continues to restrain the elephant from moving forward, the baby elephant. And so it tries and it tries for days, and sometimes that collar starts to even cut into its leg, so it's painful. And pretty soon, the baby elephant gives up and says, it's no use. That has power over me. I can't move beyond it. Well, he stops trying. And here you go, 10 years later, that elephant is no longer 100 kilos, but 5,000 kilos, weighing thousands of pounds, able to uproot trees, to move loaded rail cars, and yet it can still be held by a 3-foot stake in the ground. In fact, they often replace it with a little wooden peg. So that elephant, that circus elephant, it remembers the pain it had as a baby. And so it doesn't break away. So even though it's a little chain and a little wooden peg, the elephant believes that it has limitations. It doesn't know that it could break away. The elephant's belief actually prevails over the truth that it could be free and move away. Now think about it. Aren't we a little bit, or maybe a lot bit, like those big circus elephants? We all have this incredible power within us to create and to do so much. However, childhood experiences, failures, what we were told by parents, teachers, we start to think that we can't do certain things. We have these beliefs that we create in our subconscious mind, and it's not the truth of us. We have within us a power that is so far greater than any circumstance, situation, condition. We can do things more than we even know that we can. But we have these self-limiting beliefs that, like that chain and peg, that stake, they hold us back. So the question is, what is your peg? What is your stake that's holding you back? And would you like to know what that is and be able to break free of it? I'm going to invite you to join me in a process now where we're going to recognize the pegs and chains that can block us from experiencing the greatest freedom and how to move beyond that. So I'm going to invite you now, if you feel comfortable, to close your eyes. Take a deep breath and let it go. Another breath in and let it go. And now just breathe, becoming present. So the question is, what does living in freedom look like for you? And you can ask yourself now, what does living in freedom look like for me? What does living a life of freedom look like for me? Just let whatever comes forth. What does it look like to live a life of total freedom? And what does it feel like? Let yourself just fully imagine yourself living a life where you are completely free, financially free, have the freedom of great health, relationships. Just bring into your imagination yourself living a life where you had complete freedom. Feel it and see it now. Very good. And now I'm going to invite you to bring to mind an area of your life that you presently don't experience as much freedom as you would like to. So bring to mind an area of your life that you would love to experience more freedom in. Good. Whatever comes up, just see that area that you would like to have more freedom in. Now, ask yourself, what thought do I have that supports this block to my freedom? What thought or thoughts do I have that support this block to my freedom? Good. Now let us now return to our state of freedom that we had just experienced before identifying the block. Come back to that state of freedom. And now let that feeling of freedom, that presence, that picture of freedom that is breathing you right now and always, Imagine that freedom, presence, just embracing the block and any thoughts that had supported the block. Freedom is now embracing the block and it's dissolving the block back into the native nothingness from which it came, dissolving and resolving the block. Very good, very good. So now take a breath in and just know that this is a process you can do anytime. We invite you to open your eyes if you care to now. Now that's part of a process. And because you have a little Johnny or a little Susie or a little Liz or little Andres within us, who's 4 years old, you might know the ABCs. I'm guessing you do, right? So I'm going to give you the process in an ABCD plan. So that, again, to help us remember. Number 1A, first, to live a life of freedom, we want to acknowledge and be aware of what living in freedom looks like and feels like. You've got to get a sense of it, to feel it, to see how you would walk and talk if you lived in total freedom, financial freedom, or whatever freedom that you're seeking. So you're acknowledging with your A and aware of your freedom. And just imagine that on a daily basis. Next, you want to go to B. What's the block? So you need to know the thing that's been blocking whatever it is that you're wanting to have as your experience. So you go to B, you identify the block and the thoughts you have behind it. Then we're going to move to C, and there's 3 C's. We're going to choose C. If we're choosing to see change, we're going to change that block by C, connecting it back to the A, to the awareness. So we're choosing to change the block by connecting it back to the awareness of freedom and letting it dissolve it. So you got your A, you got your B, you got your C's, and next we're going to go to D. And this is our final part. That's we're going to declare. Now, because it's Independence Day, we're all aware that that's part of the 4th of July, the Declaration of Independence. Well, I'm going to suggest it's a declaration of interdependence. And how are we going to have a declaration of interdependence? Well, because we're going to create our own personal Pledge of Allegiance, another 4th of July piece, right? The Pledge of Allegiance. So we're going to declare our interdependence by creating our own personal Pledge of Allegiance. Now, real quick, I'm going to give you, how about some Pledge of Allegiance trivia? How many of you know that the Pledge of Allegiance that we speak today isn't even the original Pledge of Allegiance? I wasn't even aware of this. The Pledge of Allegiance actually was written in August of 1892 by a socialist minister named Francis Bellamy. It was originally published in the Youth Companions on September 8th, 1892. And he had hoped that the pledge would be used by citizens in any country. The original form of the Pledge of Allegiance was, I pledge allegiance to my flag and the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So it was in 1923 that the words, the flag, it moved from my flag to the flag of the United States of America. And in 1954, President Eisenhower encouraged Congress to add the words under God because it was in response to the communist threat of the times. So we now have a 31-word Pledge of Allegiance that we say. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands. Now it says one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So there's your pledge trivia history. A little bit, you can always look for more of that. So what I'm going to talk to you about is pledge. because you're making your declaration of interdependence by creating your own Pledge of Allegiance. Now, a pledge, the definition is that it's a commitment by a solemn promise. So you're going to create a committed promise. Allegiance means a loyalty or commitment to a group, individual, or cause. So I'm going to share with you by Reverend Dr. David Alt. He created this Pledge of Allegiance. And I'm going to invite you to close your eyes and listen. I'm only going to read portions of it, but I think it's very, very powerful, and that is why I'm sharing it with you today. So, closing your eyes. This is the Pledge of Allegiance by Reverend Dr. David Alt. I pledge allegiance to breaking the barriers of my humanness. I recognize that my time on this planet is precious and limited. Every day is a canvas on which I can create. Every day is an opportunity for me to move in the direction of the dreams and the expanded vision I feel inside. By setting aside petty grievances, past mistakes, righteous anger, and my broken story, I pledge to move forward and embrace the experience of freedom right here and right now. I pledge allegiance to the expression of my spiritual honesty. I fully own the fact that my presence here in this body and on this earth is a celebration of uniqueness and importance. I am a creation of life, of a higher power. My reason for being here matters in the grand divine plan. I walk the path of my destiny with conviction, purpose, and grace. I pledge allegiance to the quiet soldier within. I march forward towards a history of my own making, wisely, lovingly choosing the means by which I spread my beliefs and convictions. I never make others wrong for their chosen path, for I recognize the innumerable roads that lead to the one. I pledge allegiance to wise discernment, knowing when to speak and when to remain quiet, knowing when to comfort and when to leave alone, knowing when to intervene and when to avoid interfering. I pledge allegiance to the freedom from comparison. I once and for all lay down my wearisome, stale beliefs of unworthiness and not being good enough. I know that my past does not define who I am. I am forever evolving, growing, and learning. I now choose opportunities to let my voice be heard, to let my light shatter the darkness of futility so that every personal dream is explored. I pledge allegiance in knowing that things are not always as they seem. Just because something can't be seen with the physical eye or rationalized by our current mode of understanding does not negate its existence. I pledge allegiance to a love that has no agenda. I no longer choose to give for what I might get, to manipulate in order to control, to abandon before I can be abandoned, to tolerate because there are seemingly no other options. I choose to love as a way of being. I pledge allegiance to the sacredness of laughter, knowing that the greatest healing force that exists reverberates from the vibration of this holy and irreplaceable gift. I allow humor, joy, and eruptions of laughter to make their home in my heart. I just breathe that in. Oh, thank you, Reverend Dr. David, for your Pledge of Allegiance, which is an inspiration. And I have made some copies. And if you so choose, I imagine you could contact the office and we'd be happy to send you one. It is my gift to you on this 4th of July. So are you ready to break free from the chain and the pegs of past beliefs, of limiting thoughts and ideas, and to really live and embrace that exuberance of your 4-year-old, the baby elephant, the little 4-year-old who's just free and exuberant and zealous as all get out. It's the 4th of July, and it's time to let go of things that aren't so, to let go of what has held us back, and to claim our freedom, to declare it, to write a pledge of allegiance. What are you pledging your life to? And it doesn't have to be as long as in detail. However, I believe we all could write some sort of pledge of what we're committing our lives to, starting right here, July 4th, 2021. Write it down, read it, and let that be your guiding light. The guiding light is within us. Let's tap in, tune in, and let the fireworks begin. Unless it's illegal, but it's the inner fireworks. So may you enjoy your 4th of July. Be safe, be well, and be exuberant and free. Until next time, the divine in me honors and sees and blesses the divine in you, including your 4-year-old. And so it is.
And now it's time for our prosperity blessing. This is the time that I like to give thanks for all the green love that comes in and all of your time and talent that you offer up into the community, because it does take all of that to have our Unity community thriving. I want you to know that when you volunteer, you're not only volunteering to give a sacred service of yourself to the community, but it also fills you knowing you're doing a good service. So when I use my green love, whether it's through PayPal, writing a check, or dropping off a check or cash, I like to hold it in my hand, acting as it's a symbol that I hold it in my hand and hold it to my heart. It helps me to remember that I am always giving abundantly in all ways that I'm possibly able to, and that it opens up that vibrational energy for me of giving and receiving, which is the law of attraction. So if that feels good to you, try it out. And the words are going to be up on the screen, and if you'll read that out loud with me as well. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. And thank all of you. And just a reminder, when you're giving in a form of green love, you're giving to this community in the building, but we also give out to different organizations in the community every month. Just so you know, we are making a grander contribution than just what we need to keep all of our needs going. Thanks.
Come gather around people wherever you roam, and admit that the waters around you have grown, and accept it that soon you'll be drenched to the bone. If your time to you is worth saving, then you better start swimming or you sink like a stone, for the times they are a-changing. Come writers and critics who prophesy with your pen, and keep your eyes open, the chance won't come again. And don't speak too soon, for the wheels still don't spin, and there's no telling who that it's naming, 'cause the loser now will be later to win, for the times they are a-changing. Come senators, congressmen, please heed the call. Don't stand in the doorway, don't block up the hall, for he that gets hurt will be he who has stalled. The battle outside is raging, and soon shake your
join me in the prayer of protection. The light of God surrounds us. I am that light. The love of God enfolds us. I am that love. The power of God protects us. I am that power. The presence of God watches over us. I am that presence. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.
Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me. Yes, there is peace on earth, a peace that was meant to be. With God as our Creator, family on our way, as we walk with each other in perfect harmony. Yes, peace begins with me. Yes, this is the moment now. With every step I take, oh, this is my joyous vow. To take each moment and live each moment in peace eternally. Yes, there is peace on earth, and yes, it begins with me.
Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you, Bonny Shuman, for your presence with us here today. Loved your piano playing and being a part of our congregation so much today. So I just want to thank every one of us for being the presence and the light, and for remembering who we are, who we came here to be, and letting go of things that aren't truth. May you just enjoy the rest of your 4th of July holiday. Stay safe. Know that you're loved beyond measure. Embrace your inner child. Forgive and let go of anything that you need to let go of, because part of freedom is forgiveness, to forgive and just set yourself and others free. Know that we're all in this together, and may we play well in the playground of life. It's an adventure, and so it is. See you next week. Sending you lots of love. Bye for now.